This lighting is going in and out like crazy. Sorry, it's a cloudy, sunny day. We actually have sun. That's quite nice. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and today we are doing my December reading wrap up, as well as a couple of stats from the year overall. The stats will be at the end, so if you're only interested in that part, I'll put up the time that I talk about it. But first of all, we've got to do the December reading wrap up, and I do it in the smash or pass style, where I go through all the books that I read in the month of December and tell you whether I would smash or pass. So let's get straight into it. I hope you're all doing really well, and let me know, have you read any of these and what was your favourite book of December? But starting off with the ebooks, we have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and this is by Ashley Winstead. I really like Ashley Winstead's thrillers. I've now read 3 of them, and In My Dreams I Hold a Knife is one of her backlists that I hadn't got around to reading. This was good. I think for me it will be a smash, because I do want to get a physical copy and I will read whatever Ashley Winstead puts out. After reading 3, I can definitely see the formula that she uses, and it was kind of highlighted for me in this book. This book is a thriller around this woman who is going to her school reunion. There is a problem with this reunion because one of their friends, when they were at school together, died. With all her friends together for the first time in ages, they're being questioned as to what actually happened to the girl that died and who actually did it. It was really good, and I did enjoy all the twists and turns. You get different perspectives from different friends. It also takes place at the present time when they're being questioned, but also in the past on the events leading up to what happened. It was a good book. I did enjoy the twists and turns, but like I say, I do think Ashley Winstead's got a bit of a formula to her works in terms of how it all ended, which I'm now pretty used to. I still like it still works. I'm not against somebody reusing something if it works. This one was a smash. I did enjoy it. Then we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and Spinning Silver was the Discord book club pick for the month of December, and I'm really pleased this one got chosen. I feel like December, to be honest, winter in general, is the perfect time for winter fantasy read, and this one was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's a fantasy standalone following this girl who can turn silver into gold. She is the daughter of a moneylender, but he's not a very good moneylender. He gets very apprehensive about asking people for their money back, even when it's at the detriment to themselves. She has enough of this when her mum becomes really ill, and she's like, no, that's it, I'm taking matters into my own hands. And so she goes off and starts bringing money back into the household. There is fae involved in this book, which I really enjoyed, because they catch wind of her turning silver into gold, and so now they want her to do it for them. We also have multiple perspectives. That's the only downside to this book that I had. I think the writing was really good. I really enjoyed it, but there are multiple perspectives and there is no indication of a change in POV. Sometimes it will happen just in the middle of a chapter and you're just like, wait, what? Like, first of all, it was 2 and I was like, oh, okay, so it's changing on the chapter, fair enough, wasn't expecting this. And because it's all done in first person, you don't get their person's name unless someone says their name. So sometimes you can go through a good few paragraphs without realising, oh wait, who are we following? And then finding out who you're following. It was a lot to get used to, but once you get used to it, I think it's really worth it, and the book is really good. And that seemed to be the general consensus on Discord. Honestly, we have been really lucky for Discord books. I think we've only had 1 book which everyone just didn't really like. The rest of the time we've really enjoyed them, but the general consensus was that this was a really good book. The multiple perspectives with 0 indication of when they were changing and who you were changing to, that was the thing that everyone just said that it's not great. And with all the recommendations that you get for this book, you would have thought that this would have been talked about more, so you'd be more prepared, but it's really not. But just so you know, that is in there. And then the final ebook I read is The Mystery of Mistletoe Hall. This was so cute, and this is by I want to say Benedict Brown, but I might have that slightly wrong. This was such a fun book. So I really wanted a Christmas murder mystery. That was something I really wanted to read for Christmas this year. This book, I'm pretty sure, again, it got recommended to me within Discord. Like, Discord has been amazing for book recommendations. So if you ever want any other book recommendations or just a place to chat about books, a book club and everything, I'll have it linked below for you. It's a really good time. Would love to have you there. It's all free, by the way. This was so good. So it's a murder mystery and we're following this 17-year-old boy. It's set in the 1920s. So we have a lot of the aristocratic society and mannerisms, which is something I love. But we're following this boy who gets taken by his grandfather to his grandfather's friend's Christmas party, and his grandfather used to work for the police, so he was very involved with murder mysteries and stuff. Now this book is technically the 5th book in a series, but it's written in such a way that you can read it as a standalone and go into it without having read the other book, but you do get the indication that he's done this a few times. His grandfather has pulled him into different murder mysteries a few times because he's trying to train him up to be a detective. It is so much fun. It is really, really cozy. I'm definitely going to read more of these books. They're available on Kindle Unlimited in the UK. I'm not sure about the US, but this was so good. It was so fun. There is another Christmas one, which I would definitely be reading next year for Christmas. I had so much fun. This was everything I wanted it to be. The Christmas vibes were there. The setting was perfect. We have this snowstorm that's happened and a murder. Of course, you've got them trying to figure out what's going on, but it's also done in a really kind of cozy, low stakes way, even though it's a murder mystery. It just worked. I absolutely loved it, so that is another smash. Oh, by the way, Spin and Silver was also a smash. So let's jump into the physical books. I do actually have one DNF, but it's all the way down here, which normally I mention my DNFs at the very start of this video. It's just, well, I kind of forgot, but never mind. Let's just go through the parts. So first up we have Daisy Darker, and this is by Alice Feeney. And this was interesting. This takes place on Halloween, which honestly, if I'd realised that, I would have read it around Halloween. However, there wasn't massive Halloween vibes with this book. You do get a little bit of talk around Halloween and kind of like the origins behind it, but that's about it. We're following a main character who is estranged from her family. They don't talk to her, they don't interact with her because of something that happened many years ago, which you don't find out about. You just get little tidbits as the story progresses, so you're not sure why they're not talking to her. You just get the fact that something happened. Then things start going wrong. So you've got all the family that have come together to their grandmother's house that is very remote and very secluded, and once the tide goes out, that's it. You're stuck on this island in this house until the tide comes back in. Now this family has been very estranged. They don't spend much time together, so it's the first time they're all kind of getting together in a while, and you can definitely see that tensions are high. And then a murder happens. Now this one is inspired by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which I have not read. I will say this book did take a couple of twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, although overall it wasn't my favourite. I couldn't connect to the writing style of this, and there was a lot of flashback. I get why they were there, but also I feel like it didn't really add loads to the story. You were just seeing how our main character that we're following, Daisy, how she was treated by her family and how she was never really liked and wanted. So I mean, it was fine. I think the final twists and stuff did make it worth it, but I don't think I'd bother rereading this one. So for now it's going to be a pass. Not like a hard pass. It was one of those things that I'm happy I've read it, but I wouldn't reread it. But I would recommend, if you do want I wouldn't say this is a thriller, to be quite honest. I would definitely say more like murder mystery set on Halloween, although the Halloween vibes aren't really heavy. I would say this is one that you might want to get out from the library or something. It's not one that I would say go out and buy unless you've read it and know that you really like it. Moving on to Salt Slow by Julia Armfield. This is a short story collection. Julia Armfield is the author that wrote Our Wives Under the Sea, which I did really enjoy. I read that one as an ebook, and when I first finished it I wasn't sure on it, but it's one of those books that's kind of stuck with me, and I'm like, actually that was a pretty good book. This one is kind of forgettable, I'm not gonna lie. So short story collections, some of them are fantastic, and sometimes you get a short story collection where you get a couple that you like and then the rest you just don't get on with. That was this, unfortunately, so I'm gonna say this is a pass. I know loads of people have really enjoyed this though. This is a book that really explores social commentary on women and girls growing up. My favourite short story was actually the first one, which was Mantis. That one definitely stayed with me the most. It's very visceral, and that's a common theme in this. Like, this is technically considered a horror short story collection, and I think mainly just because it's kind of gross in places. It's not actually that scary, but yeah, this was fine. I enjoyed some of the explorations. I definitely think you could pull a lot of things from this. It just wasn't my favourite. Unfortunately, there was more misses in this book than what I actually enjoyed reading. So yeah, so this one's a pass. I'm pleased I tried it because I did enjoy Julia Armfield's Our Wives Under the Sea. I thought that was really interesting. This wasn't my favourite, unfortunately. I think this is probably my least favourite book of the month, mainly because it's just so forgettable for me, which is a bit of a shame. Then we have a reread, which obviously this is a smash. I loved this. This is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and I had so much fun annotating it this time around. I read this for Katie's Patreon book club for the month. It was so good. I really, really enjoyed this. Oh, I still need to read her video for that. that she did for Patreon. I had so much fun with this. I annotated so many different things. My list was quite extensive, but basically what's happening is we're following Zachary, and Zachary stumbles across this book which details something that happened to him as a child. And so he's a bit freaked out. He's like, what, how, what, why am I in a book? What, this is exactly what happened to me. Wait a minute, if I'd done that thing, does this mean this would have happened? And there's lots of questions. And so he goes on this kind of mystery to find out, what is this book? Who wrote this book? Because there's no indication, nothing going on. Goes from there. But interspaced with that plot line, you get lots of little, almost short stories. They all connect together, but they follow different things, and you learn about the Starless Sea, what it is. You also have a bit of a pirate love story going on. All connects together at the end, and I love it. This is a book for book lovers. There is appreciation for books. It is beautiful writing, very purple prose, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I really recommend this book, and I knew that upon reread I was going to love it so much more. When I first read it, I liked it. I thought it was very clever. I thought it was very good. This lighting is going in and out like crazy. Sorry, it's a cloudy sunny day. We actually have sun. That's quite nice. So I knew that I liked it, but I also knew that upon reread I would appreciate it so much more, and I did 100%. As you can tell from all the tabs, this was so good and reminds me why I love rereading so much, and why one of my goals for 2024 is to reread more, because I love it. It is so good and so much fun. That was great. So, complete smash. Okay, moving on to Printer's Devil Court by Susan Hill. Susan Hill is the author of A Woman in Black, and I picked this one up because, well, I got it for like 25 pence, which is great. And just because I was interested in it, apart from The Woman in Black, I haven't actually tried any of Susan Hill's work, so I really wanted to give this one a try. This is a short story that is a ghost story, and you do have little illustrations, if I can find one, like this. It was a very, very quick read. We're following our main character, who is a student learning to be a doctor. He gets tangled up with these couple of other students who decide to play God when it comes to death. I really enjoyed the concept of this. This is a book that I wish had been expanded upon, and that we got the perspectives of the two that were actually trying to play God, rather than the perspective of the person that just saw the end results. This is kind of like Frankenstein, but make it to do with a person's soul. Did enjoy the concept of this. Like I say, I just think it should have been expanded upon more. So this is one that I'm really stuck between, because I feel like, would I reread it? I'm not sure, but I did really like the concept of this. So I think I'm going to give it a very light smash, maybe a peck on the lips, nothing major. But I would recommend, if you are intrigued by Susan Hill's kind of take on Frankenstein. It's just a shame we didn't get it from the perspectives of the people that were actually doing these experiments, because I think that would have been really fascinating. I definitely think this is a short story that could have become even if it was just a novella, and it would have been so good. But I'm still pleased I gave it a try, because I do think the writing is great. Bit of a middle of the road one. I don't know where to put it really, but I did really enjoy the atmosphere of it all. It was just a bit of a shame that the character we're following doesn't get involved, considering I am just repeating myself when it comes to this one. Well, let's move on. We then have a short story from this Christmas books collection by Charles Dickens. There are 5 Christmas stories in here, and I've been slowly working my way through these. Once every year on Christmas Eve, I read a short story from this collection. This time it was The Cricket on the Hearth, and I really enjoyed this one. So this one didn't actually take place over Christmas. It actually took place at the end of January, but it was really good and really cozy, and all it is a little novella, well, short story actually. These are all 90 pages long. That is all about hearth and home, and how cozy and comforting that is, about friendship and family ties, and it was just really, really heartwarming. This was a book that I'm really pleased that I read. Obviously, A Christmas Carol is the classic Charles Dickens Christmas book, but this one just felt so kind of heartwarming and lovely, whereas Christmas Carol is more gothic leaning with our 3 Christmas ghosts. But this was just really, really nice, really heartfelt, and it is more of a kind of look at life, and there's like a little bit of drama in there, but not much, and it was just cozy and heartwarming. I love making my way through this book, so this is a smash. I'm really enjoying it, and I know once I've read the last two, I'm just gonna restart because this is really fun, and I really like this little tradition that I've made for myself, and it's just good. I think it puts all the vibes in there for Christmas and just gets me really in the mood for it. Speaking of Christmas, we also have Hercule Poirot's Christmas, and this is by Agatha Christie. This is a Christmas murder mystery. However, unfortunately, unlike the Mystery of Mistletoe Hall, this one has zero Christmas vibes. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that each chapter is dated, so it starts from December 22nd, and they occasionally talk about the fact that Christmas is a time for forgiveness, you wouldn't know this took place on Christmas. Like, if you just took those parts out, this could take place at any time of the year. There's no talk of Christmas decorations or anything like that. Now, the Christmas meal I can understand, because on the evening of the 22nd, we do actually have a murder. So what's happened is we have Mr. Lee, who is inviting all of his children round for Christmas, except Mr. Lee is a really horrible, cantankerous old man who nobody likes being around. None of his children really want to go, and then he turns up dead, and you're trying to solve the mystery of who actually did it. I did solve this one, but only because I recognised the book that this was kind of took inspiration from, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have solved it. But because I had read that book, and I realised from just one throwaway sentence, I'm like, oh, that relates to that book. I wonder if that book's going to have inspiration. And then by the time we were getting towards the end, I was like, oh, not just inspiration, like the person that did it and everything. But I still really enjoyed it. I had so much fun with this. I enjoyed the twists and turns, the different reveals. I like all the little red herrings that I had to try and work through. I just think it was really well done. This was my first Hercule Poirot's book. It was really interesting to see how Hercule Poirot gets a lot more involved than Miss Marple, because I've been making my way through the Miss Marple books first. And I do really enjoy them. I think Miss Marple was a bit more like cozy leaning, whereas Hercule Poirot loves the drama, and he loves causing a scene, and at the end he has to sit everyone down and be like, this could have happened, and you could have done it, and this could have happened. However, none of these things happened. It was this person. And it's like, that is so dramatic, but it kind of worked. It was a really fun time. So I'm going to give this a smash. It was a bit disappointing on the aspects of like the Christmas side of things, because I did want a bit more of a Christmas setting, but again, I will probably read the other Christmas book that Agatha Christie did for next year as well. Alongside Charles Dickens' Christmas books, A Christmas Murder Mystery is apparently where it's at for me, which shouldn't be that surprising because I love a good murder in my book. This was really good. I did really enjoy it. I only did the one tab, and that was just for clues, people of suspicion. But yeah, this was really good. So then we move on to what could also possibly be my favourite book of the month of December, and I got incredibly lucky with this book because I got sent this book a whole month early. There was a mess up with the Waterstones, and they sent some of their copies and some of the pre-orders of this book a month early. Thankfully, the author does know about this, and they did a post talking about it, so I just got incredibly lucky, and that is, of course, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is a complete smash. I adore this book. The first book, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I read at the start of 2023 and absolutely adored it, and I was really pleased to finish out my year with the second book. It's so good. So we're following Emily, and in the first book, Emily is compiling an encyclopedia of fairies because we're set in like an alternate history. This one takes place in 1910. I think the other book takes place in 1909. Emily is a Cambridge professor that teaches about fairies because, as said, this is set in alternate history where fairies are an accepted part of the world. Now, this book is technically set in autumn, however, it's still a good book for a winter read because Emily goes off to, I think it's the Alps, so you get all that winter coldness from being in the mountains. It's so much fun. In the first book, you see how Emily and her professional rivals-ish, Wendell Bumblebee, and he comes to this expedition which Emily was not expecting or wanting. However, it turns out he's very helpful because Emily is, well, socially backward. She does not know how to act around the villages that she's at with this, I think it was Iceland, or at least inspired by Iceland and this place, and she just doesn't know how to interact with the people there. She kind of offends everyone by accident, and then Wendell comes along and he's so charming and charismatic. He smooths everything out and it's just really fun. It is such a good book. I really enjoyed it, and this one just continued on with the banter between them, the exploration of fairies. This is set as journal entries as well as footnotes to her journal entries, because Emily likes keeping journals. It's what she did for the first book, and she was like, actually, I really liked this. This was a really helpful process to help me think about things. And then when she mentions different things to do with fairy, she puts little footnotes of, okay, that's sourced from this place, or oh, this theory is this, and she'll expand on it a little bit. It really worked for me. I love this book so much. Highly, highly recommend. Complete smash. I cannot wait for the third book, because there is going to be a third book. This was so good. This was like a little Christmas treat. Like, it was so good. I mean, if I could have had one book early, it would have been this. Like, I am so happy with it. It was so good. Okay, we've now reached the DNF, and that is Labyrinth Heart by M.A. Carrick. I got about halfway through this book, and I did that actually in November, and then in December I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to finish it. It's going to be no problem. I'm going to finish this book. And yeah, that didn't happen. So this is the final book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, and I really like the first and second book. However, this third book, it does a lot of jumping around with different characters. So there are multiple perspectives, and that's across the series. That's absolutely fine. However, you definitely get more in this last book, and you can see why, because they're trying to like tie everything up so that you don't have any loose ends or loose threads anywhere, and I do understand that. It just wasn't working for me. Like, there was a lot of perspective changes. There also felt like that scenes were in the wrong order, and that we were missing connecting scenes between things that were happening, and so I just found it a little bit jarring. I was like, okay, we're gonna give this a try this month. We're gonna give it another try. And at that point, I just kind of lost interest. Now, I do actually want to finish this book, but what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna save it for when I'm in the mood to reread this series. So when I choose to do that, I will then reread the first half that I read and then finish it. Now, I know a couple of people have read this and they did enjoy it and they thought it was a good end to the series. It's just, it wasn't working for me, and I don't know if that's just because I wasn't in the mood for it at that time. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, this was a DNF, so for now it's a pass, but I will be keeping it because I do want to attempt to reread this and finish it out at some point, but it probably just won't be until maybe like a year or so's time. I did like this in like the series, the concept of it all. Got like different levels of magic, and some of it involves like a tarot-esque magic, which I really liked. And there's a lot that you can pull apart about different society and the way it's all structured. I really liked the setting. It's all Venetian inspired, so there is a lot going for this. I just couldn't get past the fact that it felt like we were missing connecting scenes, and that some of the stuff should have been in different places, and it was just a bit jarring. Okay, the last two books, we have Patrick Ruffer's The Narrow Road Between Desires, a little novella that is a companion to his other books that he has written, starting with The Name of the Wind. And I really loved The Name of the Wind, The Wise Man's Fear, and Slow Regard of Silent Things. I absolutely love them. However, this book is a reworking of a short story that he wrote ages ago now, absolutely ages ago, almost 10 years ago, which was called The Lightning Tree, and he has reworked it. He's taken that short 60-page story and expanded it so it's a bit longer. We also have different illustrations in this book, and it is nice, but in all honesty, this is probably his weakest work that he's done, and I feel like it would have been nice to get something new rather than a reworking of something old, considering how many years we have been waiting for that third book, which I don't want to be one of those people that says that, but it is kind of true. I still picked it up because I do love Patrick Rothfuss's writing. It's just unfortunately this one didn't really hit with me. Following Bast, who is a character that we meet in the first book, I would say that this is a book for the fans of that series, and if you're not a fan of that series, then I wouldn't read this one, to be quite honest. I mean, it's a good little introduction to his writing style, but there are things that pertain to the first and second book, which unless you've read those, you won't fully understand it, you won't fully get everything out of it that you could. It was fine. This is more of a folklore fairy tale-esque book. We learn a bit more about the magic folk within Name of the Wind, which kind of on the outskirts of the storyline, and so it is interesting, but it didn't hit the way I wanted it to, so that's a shame. For me though, it's still a smash, very light smash, because it didn't hit the way I wanted it to, but I also know that I'm going to keep this book. I really like Patrick Rothfuss's work. It's disappointing, but I also still like it for what it is, which is probably just because of the fact that I am in love with the series overall. Moving on to the last book, and that's Oh Caledonia by Elspeth Barker. This was so good. Oh my god, this was fantastic. So this was the book I picked up in the December reset video. So for my reset videos, I go book shopping, I get one book. I'm only allowed one book, and I don't go in with wanting to find a particular book. I just go to my local Waterstones and have a browse and just see what calls to me. And it may not be a book that I've heard anything about, which this was the case for this one, and it was so good. It was so worth it. One, I loved the shopping experience of that. It was really good. Brought back all the nostalgia of being younger, where I just went in with no idea what I was looking for, but would just pick things up that looked interesting. And also this was an amazing find. Oh Caledonia is a story about a girl called Janet. At the very start of the book, we're told the fact that Janet is dead at the bottom of the stairs, dressed in her mother's black dress, and you don't know why. And then it goes back in time and you see the lead up from when she was born to what happened that night, and it is so good. I really enjoyed it. It's a slow moving story with zero plot, spans a long period of time within 200 pages with impeccable atmosphere. This all takes place in Scotland in this really dreary castle. Is also winter and miserable weather 90% of the time in this book. It is so good, and you're just exploring how Janet does not get on with anyone in her family, that she feels really outcast. You see how they treat her and how she is pretty much an outcast from her own family. There's lots of social commentary you can do with this book. This is a book that I want to reread and annotate, and I think it could end up being one of my favourite books. However, I do want to reread it to make sure of that, and also to be able to annotate it. The writing is incredible. Like, I absolutely loved it, and that was the selling point for me in this book. Janet is a really kind of unlikable character in a lot of ways, but the writing was just so amazing that I didn't want to put this book down, and it was really interesting exploration of Janet and of society and what it was like for girls at this time, and would highly recommend. It's not a book that gets talked about enough in my opinion. I mean, I'd never even heard of it before. Absolutely gorgeous book. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in the month of December. As I said, let me know if you've read any of these, but let's move on to a quick recap of the year in general. So I didn't want to do a separate stats video for this. I knew that this bit will probably take me about 5 minutes to talk about. Let's just have a quick overview, which some of this, clearly we need to work on some things. But starting off with the very simple, the amount of books that I read in 2023, and that is 137. That doesn't include any DNFs, and I did DNF quite a few books. But yeah, 137, I think that's probably my strongest reading year. However, a lot of these books were actually short. Although that seems like a really high number, some of these, I mean, we had manga. I think I read about 11 or 12 manga, which are very quick reads. I also had lots of short stories that were under like 100 pages, just like random little things I picked up, like Printer's Devil Court, and that's mainly because of the bi-monthly readathon that I host, which is the Tackle Your TBR readathon, and in that I try and read 4 books within 24 hours, so of course they're all short. Honestly, has helped to this number quite a lot. But pages read, we have 47,833 pages, and then we move on to series. So I really wanted to keep track of the series that I have DNF'd, series that I've finished, and then the series that are in progress, so like the ones that I either started or the ones that I haven't made any progress even though we have the next book out, and then series that I'm up to date with. And it's kind of ridiculous. So this year I DNF'd 4 series and I finished 5. So, you know, 9. That's not bad, where we made a little bit of progress with 9. However, this series that I either started or have made 0 progress in is 27. What was I doing? I don't know. I'm a notorious series starter and then notoriously bad at finishing them, as shown from the 5 series that I managed. And one of those, actually no, a couple of those series are series that I started and finished this year, which is really good. Ebook series like the Folk of the Air trilogy. But that means I didn't make progress with any of the ones that I'd already started before this year, so that's something I definitely need to work on. The series that I'm up to date with, so these are series where, so say like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I'm up to date with that because I've read all the books that are currently out, and that is 12 series. So not too bad, but I definitely want to make that number higher and lower the series in progress number. We'll see if that actually happens in 2024. And then the final 2 things that I wanted to track is the books that I have hauled this year. Okay, so we've read 137 books, but I have had new books, like in my collection, books that I have bought, 148. Now, part of this were actually books that were replacing books, so like the Throne of Glass series that came out in hardback, that is included in this number. They didn't add to my TBR in any way because they were just replacing the paperbacks that I had had for years. So I feel like some of this number doesn't actually count. Some of this number is also gifts from some of you, from publishers, which was incredibly lucky. But I did go crazy, especially in May, which is my birthday month. I went absolutely balmy and bought loads of books, and yeah, I mean, towards the end of the year I have gotten much better with that, which is really good. But yeah, I definitely want to work on trying not to buy quite so many books, which I think because I've got the Kindle now, that really helps as well, because with my Kindle, you know, you sometimes can get books that are like 99 pence, which is great if they're books that I was interested in buying, so I can give them a try first, and then if I do like it, I can go out and buy the physical book, but it won't be anytime soon. Hopefully next year is going to be better, is what I'm saying. Fingers crossed. And then books on my TBR, we are ending on 138 books unread on my shelves, which, if we think about the fact that I read 137 books this year, that is 1 year's worth of reading on my shelves, ignoring the fact that some of that 137 were actually ebooks for like Kindle Unlimited and things like that. We're going to ignore that. But yeah, those are the stats we're finishing on / starting 2024 with. By the time this video comes out, fingers crossed, that number's actually gone down for my TBR, because I am in the middle of one book at the minute, so fingers crossed that would have finished, so we'd be down to 137. So those are the stats for the year. I'm going to be putting these into my bullet journal so that I can compare them next year and just see progress that I've made. That's one thing I definitely want to work on, is the amount of books that I'm buying, which I have worked on this past couple of months, which I'm really pleased with, and then also make progress in some of the series. Anyway, that's all, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, what do we put? You know what, actually, let's put a pink heart, because I'm wearing a nice cute pink top, trying to bring spring. Like I want spring now. I'm kind of over winter, so we're trying to channel spring. It's not gonna work, but we're trying. But yeah, so a pink heart if you've made it this far, and let me know, you know, any of those stats questions, like if you know the answers to them, you know how many books you've read or things like that, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. Although it's not a competition, you know, it doesn't matter whether you only read 10 books in a year or whether you read 200 books in the year. I know a couple of people who have read over 200 books. It really doesn't matter. It's about your enjoyment, and if you've had a good reading year, that is all that matters. On that note, I will disappear. So thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, then please do consider subscribing, giving it a little thumbs up, and commenting. Those 3 things really do help this channel grow. My social media links, anyone I've mentioned, will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.